Good morning. All right, see Destiny and good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Oturu, good morning. Whoever's in the restroom, please mute yourself. Helen, if you unmute yourself, I can talk to you or send a chat on the private line.
Good morning.
Good
Hello,
morning.
Alex.
Morning,
Hello.
everybody.
Hello, class. Hello, all.
Obviously, Helen, you solved the issue. You're muted, but I've sent you a message on a private chat.
Yes, thank you for responding so quickly. I have everything I need now, so
Yeah.
I apologize that it took me a minute to figure it out because it allowed me capability on one end and then it didn't allow me, and then some emails had content that I needed, and then the other ones didn't allow me to access Canvas. So it was kind of odd, but I figured it out, tinkered around with it for a little while, so it all worked out. Thank you very much.
All right, no problem. Some of you sent me a request this morning for access to the videos, and I've given it to everybody. So if you didn't have it, let me know. I shared, the videos were too large, so when it's large like that, I cannot post it on Canvas. But I put it on the cloud in a Google Drive, and then I give everybody access to it. So if you send me a request and you didn't get it, just let me know. Anybody that didn't get it?
I could not get the approval to view the video that you put it on cloud.
I thought I responded. Yeah? I'm reducing it here. I'm checking your information here.
Okay, and
Everybody that received, let's go to, well, I just got one. I got 4 now. I got a one from Destiny, grade 1, Henry. Let's see here. Let's accept the one from Henry. Let me go back and look for yours, Tauntaun.
yes, and I don't know how to do the question, and I'm looking for the material. Do you have any extra material that help me?
For the exam questions?
Yes.
For the test? Yes, those are exactly everything we covered yesterday. So there are, some of them are what I call intuitive, as in you could probably figure it out. Some of them are not like, there's no perfect answer. It's more like a think through the scenario. Because the purpose of the training is for you to like think as though you're an IT person, and a client calls you with a request. So at the end of these modules, I'm going to go over some of the questions, right? But I've already posted the answers. What I try to do to make my life slightly easier, because I've been teaching this for a while. So when I'm doing the questions, I'm doing the answers, or if it's an answer that I have from another third-party source, I have the answers before I do the questions. So usually I post the answers to be available like a minute after the homework is ready. So usually, as soon as I get notice that everybody has turned in their homework, I usually just post the answers. So you will notice, for those of you who are on Canvas, at 9:01 a.m., the answers should have been posted along with it. So normally I post it in 2 ways because I know not everybody is used to Canvas. So I tend to post it. I try to post it in an announcement when possible, but also on Canvas, we have a section called files. So I will post it under files also. For example, this morning I've posted 120 questions that we're going to go over tomorrow. So I posted it in an announcement as an attachment, but also I've posted it under a section called files. So to make it easier for me to grade, I usually just post the answers like a minute after the assignments are due.
Yeah.
So when I'm going over the answers, at least you have the raw copies. So when I do the test, like the pre-assessment test, I actually have to physically go and type the questions in and the answers. So when you answer, it immediately tells you whether you answered correctly or incorrectly. But the ones that require written answers, I give you like a best selection and then we'll go over it. Like on Wednesday night, obviously I have the class planned out because I've been doing it for over 3 years. Like Wednesday questions are going to be more hardware oriented, like how to look at a motherboard or identify portions. Those ones, you have to literally type something or write something. And either you're going to scan it or you take a picture and then post it. Now, for those who complain about, who had a difficulty submitting assignments, you're just supposed to click the assignment and then upload the file. I only saw 9 this morning, 9 answers so far. I had to drop some people from the class because I believe that if you missed a big section or you missed today, you can't really catch up and it's really not proper to stay in the class. So like at the end of the day today, I'm going to drop other people from the class so that we can have a better class. Like now I see on my own screen, you can also do the same thing on the upper right-hand corner. You can do a gallery view. Gallery view lets you see everybody that's logged onto the class. And as I said, if you're not comfortable with your video or if you're dressed somehow, you could just mute your video and leave your audio on or just mute your audio. All right, it's after 10, so we've already started the recording, and at 10:05, I'm going to lock the class out so that we can all, so I've got 16 participants, right?
There is any guides to the labs that are proposed in the end of the slides?
Yes, I'm going to provide what I wanted to do because of the limited time. Normally I do the labs in class with the students. Yeah. So I'm going to scan the labs, and it might be a homework assignment for the weekend for everybody. But it's going to take you a long time to do the labs.
But there is any guides, only the steps that we need to follow to do the labs?
Yeah, it's just a step. I've not posted those. I just scan it for you, and if you just walk through it, it's simple. You just go straight and you follow the steps.
Okay, thank you.
So you will notice by the end of the class, we would have like today, we'll have like 10 labs or something. So when I scan them and send it to you, all I need you to do is just follow step at a time. Because, you know, IT practice makes perfect, right? It makes it easy for you to know what we're doing. So we like hands-on, not just theory. We do the theory, but we do the labs also. So the questions, the 120 questions, we're going to look at it tomorrow. The questions from yesterday, we're going to try and get to some of them at the end of the day today. But I'm also the presenter for Project Management Institute in Nigeria at 1 p.m. here, which is 6 p.m. in Nigeria. So I'm going to have to rush off immediately after the class. All right, so let's see here. So today we have basically, it's a little more involved today. I'm going to skip through the section about apps. We're going to do a little math. Don't get confused or get worried. People be like, oh, math or IT, you don't have to be a math person, but because we're going to talk about numbers, I'm going to do a little math and then we will also move on. So one section I'm going to jump straight through, and I'm going to spend more time on data types, numbers, and then on the database section. So we're still allowing more people to join before I lock anybody out. Any questions? For those who couldn't sign on yesterday, I see you on now. Is there any general housekeeping questions?
So,
right. Go ahead.
I have a concern. I posted my assignment yesterday, but it didn't go through. That's why I post back again. Maybe it's late.
Okay. If you have any issue with the assignment, like somebody called this morning, you can just send it through info@atawatech.com. It comes to me also, and I could, you know, I have a, why would somebody be calling? Hang on a minute.
Yeah, I just posted back, so I should send it to your email.
Here we go. Yes. Hold on. class. Let's see who else is waiting to enter the class. I don't, okay, everybody else has been admitted. All right, okay, sorry. All right, so we've got 19 participants, and then as a courtesy to everybody else, we're going to lock the class. So let's see there. So one person is waiting. Okay, let's wait for this person to enter the class. And then might be a bandwidth issue for the other person that's trying to enter. I'm just sending somebody a private message here. All right, so all right, so the meeting is locked. Let's proceed to sharing my screen. So let's make sure we've got the slides up. The slides again are also available for everybody. Let's do slideshow from the beginning. Somebody send me a chart. What's the issue with them? All right, so I'm sharing just a portion of my PowerPoint slide in here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, so it just says objectives of section. All right, so let's, if I can just extend the section that is being shared. All right, so we're looking at data types today. This first unit, data types and their units. So you're supposed to be able to recognize notational systems, the types of data and the unit of measures, and you can compare and contrast data types and their characteristics. And here, so when I say I'm giving you $100 or 100 naira for, or Paolo, I forgot unit of measure you use, but let's say 100 euros. Really, I'm saying I'm giving you 10 euro to the power of 2 plus 10 euro to the power of 1 times 0, and of course 10 euro to the power of 0 times 0. So it doesn't make any sense if I speak like that, right? But that's what a base 10 notation means. I'm talking about to the power of 10. So when you hear the decimal, decimal is really base 10. So if you see like the number 12 as in the example on the slide means 10 to the power of 1 times plus 2 to the power 1 gives you 12. So that's how the notational system works, right? I'm going to show you for binary because I really want you to concentrate on binary. So for binary is base 2. If you recall from yesterday, I said computers do not understand human language or human numbers. Everything gets to be converted into binary. So on binary, you will see on here for generally, if you have a degree in computer science or computer engineering, you would have had to do binary conversion 2 to the power of however many, but in general for computers, we tend to end at 2 to the power 7, you see it in there. So 2 to the power 7 all the way to the left-hand side is 126. So if I'm telling you to convert decimal, like in this case, this example is 81, it's easy. But all you just need to do here, what I mean is easy, it's just a matter of practice. So let's say, let's go on our whiteboard for a minute. So, can that person mute themselves let me mute all participants. I'm going to mute all the participants, right? So for now, when I want to ask a question, I'll just come back. So now I'm sharing my whiteboard. So technically, so this is a feature that we have on Zoom. I can use to calculate. So I want to do like texting, for example, right? So I'm talking about, let's create a space here for me. So if I want to convert something as simple as 25, so do you hear 25, decimal 25? To say binary. So logically, we always start from the far left hand. Extend this here. You always go from the far left. So I want to convert decimal 25. So remember I said I have 1, 28, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. You will notice that everything is double of the other numbers to the far left. So what that means is in math, anything to the power of 0 is usually 1. So let's put, just to simplify the calculation for you. If you need more assignments on how to convert binary, I will provide it for you, and then you can do it later on. Let's make it easier for us here. I'm using So I'm using I'm creating a placeholder for my mathematical calculation to make my life easy. So let's come back here, go straight down to this one here, make a space here. So all I'm doing is I go to the left, I want to convert 25. So I know that 25 is obviously less than 128, so I'm going to put a 0 in here. What about 64? 25 is, let me unmute people, right? Let's see here. Okay, all right, so everybody following?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now here I'm on my, let's get rid of this one here. So I really want to come back on top of here. I'm going to put a 0 here. I'm going to put a 0 here also. So I just go down and I put a 0 on top. I just go down and I say, okay, the next one is 16. So I know that here, let me take this to draw. So if I'm over here now, I know that 25 is clearly bigger than 16. So I'm going to put 1 in here. All right, so I'm going to move that. So go back. So I'm going to come over here and it's okay. Since it's here, I'm going to put 1 by 16. And then when I get to 8, I'm going to put 16 plus 8 is 24. So I'm going to put 1 in there. But when I get to 4, the remainder is still a 0. So I'm going to put a 0. When I get to 2, it's still a 0. Then I'm going to get to the 1, and I'm going to get 1. So if I was to try to rearrange this thing here, I know that I'm looking at 0, 0. So my answer should say something like 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. Becomes the binary equivalent. Any question?
Yeah. I want to understand how did you choose the 0? Because I thought it was the numbers greater than 25 are zeros, the numbers less than 25 are ones.
No. So because you won't use that methodology. So remember that I'm looking for placeholders. Let's go back to let's go back to our slide for a minute on my screen, right? On this here, on this example here, like look at this example we're looking at on the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so here, what number are we looking at here?
51.
51. So I'm putting all these zeros because 120, 51, how you now do the math is you ask the question, is 51 bigger than 128? No, right? So I put a 0 there. Remember, think about it as 1 for on, 0 for off.
Off.
1 for yes, 0 for no.
For no.
Right. So here,
True,
so
true.
I go 0, 0. So 51 is clearly not larger than 64, right?
Yeah.
So I put a 0. But what about 32? 51 is larger than 32.
Yes.
So that's why I put a 1 there. So when I put a 1 there, I now subtract 32 from 51. That gives me what? 19.
19. Okay.
So the next, after 32, the next one is 16, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to be comparing the remainder, which is 19. So it's 19 greater than 16. Yes. So I put a 1 there. What is remaining? 3, right? So when I subtract 16 from 19, I have 3.
Okay. Okay. Now I see.
Okay.
So I now come
Okay.
over here to number 8. So is 3 bigger than 8? No. So I put a 0. And I go to 4. Is 3 bigger than 4? No. So I put a 0. So I get to 2. Is 3 bigger than 2? Yes. So I put a 1. But I now subtract the 2 from the 3 to get a 1. Is 1, it's usually now, it's really saying it's 1 bigger than or equal to 1. Yes. And I put the 1 there. So that's how you get this number.
Okay.
You will use the same method for base 16, which is what we're going to get to next, right?
Okay.
So if you need more assistance, you can send me an email and we can do more calculation, right?
Okay.
So for hexadecimal, so we're going to do networking later on, but let me mention here that IPv4 addresses, if that doesn't make any sense to you, I will explain when we get to that section. Just know that IPv4 addresses are noted in base 10. Like if you look at your home router for your address, it might give you 192.68 or .10.2. So that's the notation, but it still has to be converted to binary. So for IPv4, we now convert to this binary that we're looking at, right? Base 2. But IPv6, or what I call MAC addresses are noted in hexadecimal, which is 0 to 9, and the slide has a little error, 0 to 9 and A, B, C, D, E, F. If you notice base 10 goes from 0 to 9, there's no number 10 in base 10, as in terms of representation. Binary goes to 0 and 1, there's no 2 in binary. Same thing with hexadecimal, it's from 0 to value 15, there's no number 16. You just have to know how to calculate it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a little confused, but just know that you're counting the numbers. So like when we say in IP addresses that it goes up to 255, and then you now hear somebody say, but you have 256 numbers, because we count 0 as part of it. All right. So now back again on binary, which is zeros and ones. 8 bits become bytes. This is important because you need to know the notations in IT, both for speed and storage. So bits are represented here in small. So whenever you see the small letter B, you know you're talking about bits. You see the big letter B, you're talking about bytes.
Right.
All right. So if you ever see someone write K, small b is kilobits. A, big B, kilobytes. All right, so now this now relates to speed. Speed is generally represented in bits. All right, speed is always represented in bits. If you see bytes, it meant to confuse you because at the end of the day, you need to really kind of translate it. So if somebody tells you that, oh, I'm selling you some kind of device that has speed, or that maybe I'm going to give you network services. And this is the speed, which is the throughput. You also hear like the bandwidth too. We say 1,000 kilobits per second, which is KB small b/s. You understand? And then storage should be listed in the big B. But another terminology you need to be aware of is hertz, which is for the cycle. You hear like a CPU, right? So you hear the hertz represented with HZ, and this is the representation on there. And of course, so now we're going to talk about data types, which you need to understand for purposes of programming or in general about data science, but more for programming. So when we're writing programs, we need certain things for programs. When you go to the bank and you deposit $100, you say whole number 100 you deposit, correct? But if if I write a check and I want $100.05, which is 100.05, I need to make sure that I can represent it in floating point numbers. So integers could be whole numbers. Let me mute you. Whoever has the kid in the background, please, let me mute you, right? Please mute yourself, please, with the child in the background. So these are how I have to represent in all mathematical equations or all programs. These are what you have usually, really. So I have Boolean values, which is if I say is X greater than Y, if it gives me true, that is 1. If it says no, that is 0. And then another thing is characters. Characters are single textual characters. And then of course, string is a collection of characters. This is important because you need to know what value you're entering into a computer program. Am I entering numbers, as in whole numbers, floating point numbers? Am I looking for Boolean values? Am I looking for characters or strings? All right? So on this page, just all you need to know about the next one is just that there are different ways of representing data, either the ASCII code or Unicode. We're not going to go into details about that, but just know that data today is an asset to companies. I keep saying mute, everybody's not understanding. The reason when I mute everybody, then I can't ask questions. But if you know your background is noisy, please, as a courtesy, mute yourself. That way we can have more interactive class. Right? So does anybody not know how to mute themselves? I can tell you how to mute yourself. So please mute yourself, please, right? All right, so the value of data, because we also have a class on data science or data analytics, and data is key today. So data is an asset to companies. That's why people steal your information, because they can sell it in the market, right? So we are talking about security in here, even the next, I think on week number 5, we'll go focus more on security again, but just know that data is a big asset to companies, right? So, but how do I control access? I can use backup, I can use access control. Here you have permissions, usage restriction, data encryption, firewalls, and high availability. I will talk about it more later on in terms of the security section, but just know that data is a great asset to companies. So intellectual property, or IP, if you hear the word, don't confuse it with internet protocol or IP addresses. But these are the 4 things that I need you to know in terms of intellectual property. There's copyright. If you write a book, right, you have an idea, it's copyright. You go on copyright, you see the C logo on there, and then you have trademarks. So that has to do with more logos, right? And then you have patent, which is a unique invention. People sometimes confuse copyright and patent. If I write a computer software program, I can patent it because it's a unique one, but the code must be copyrighted also so somebody doesn't steal it. And then DRM, digital rights management, the same reason why if I send you something, you will see like a watermark across. Or if I sell a software like an antivirus, I say it can only be used 5 times. That's because the DRM enables me to enforce that. Just know those principles, you can elaborate on it in another course, right? Back on data, the reason why data analysts make a lot of money, or people that process data, is because data drives business, all right? Data drives business. Somebody's sending me a text, let me see here. So data drives our business. Let's accommodate the person that, all right, no, all right. So data is a business driver in IT. You need to analyze it. That's all that slide is telling you. And data analytics, again, is relating data to something valuable, right? Because data normally is in a raw form, but I need to do something with it to make it more valuable to somebody. So it's more like an insight about what I can do with the data. So if you want to write Uber now, you request Uber. So Uber has raw data that somebody has entered into their system that has GPS location, your credit card, your name, information, right? So when you request to go somewhere, when we get to the database section, Uber has to be able to relate your location to where you want to go, your name, your profile, and your credit card. So all those things are important about data that makes it very valuable today. All right, so this is how you talk about, so somebody has to enter it in and have to be able to correlate it and do meaningful reporting. All right, so that's a review on this section, unit 2, I'm going to rush through because I want to spend time on the app. I mean on the database section and talk more about data types and then do some little calculation. So on unit 2, all I want you to know here is how do you install and uninstall software, and then licensing, just for you to know the basic terminology so you don't get into trouble. I know in some parts of the world you can buy a license for like $1, but it's really a bootleg copy. You can buy Windows 10, Windows 7, but you are exposing yourself to not just liability issues, but obviously exposing yourself to security. I remember when I was teaching at the University in Nigeria, somebody gave me a software, I put it on there, but do you know what happened? Because it was a bootleg copy, I lost 2 years worth of manuscript on a big book that I was working on, because when an antivirus got into my system, it changed all my doc files to shortcuts. So today I couldn't recover it. I tried to clean it out later on, but just know that there are other issues involved in getting illegal license. So when you're installing a software, just know you need to make sure your hardware can take it, a compatibility check. So for those of you who want to be business analysts or just taking this course to be aware about IT in general, this would be important for you to know, right? And licensing. So on licensing, there are usually different types of licensing we're going to go over in a minute here. You can install it on a desktop. It's going to give you that UAC. It wants the code to be signed. Don't worry about what signed code means. IT will know what it means about digital signatures and digital certificates. That's all it's talking about there. And you have advanced options, right? Moon, usually, you remember I said yesterday, you should always have 2 accounts minimum on your system, an admin account and then a general user account. The admin account is the only one that should be able to install software. But if you go to Microsoft Store, regular users can install softwares from Microsoft stores. Unless you're in an enterprise environment, like somebody on here works at FCC. At the FCC where I also teach, I cannot install software. I have to get the IT support to remote into my system and do the UAC to elevate the privilege. All right? But when you're installing an application, you know, some applications might be meant to run on, say, Windows 7. I can install it and I can use this option in here. If you can see it on there, it says properties, and I can install it in a compatibility mode. It's not your best option, but it's what we call a workaround. Right? So now on Windows 7, 8, or later, this is an easy way to uninstall an application. You just right-click, uninstall it. On Windows 10, it's a little easier. You just highlight it, and it has an icon on the bottom. But you can also go to this control panel options in here on Windows 10 to do that. And then, of course, this is about Windows features. If you look on here, there are certain features of Windows that you can decide, like hidden files, hypervisor. When we get to virtualization, you can enable it or disable it here. And then software licensing, for you to know, if you are going to take this IT Fundamentals exam, FCO U61, it will ask you a question about a different type of licensing. So I'm just going to go through it here for those who are going to take the exam. You have a single-use license, which is for one person. You enter your product key, ID, and then bam, you use it. You can have a concurrent license, or you can have an enterprise license, which is for a lot of people, like site license. Like I have a site license to teach IT fundamentals and cloud essentials. So, but they know with DRM that maybe I bought a 50 pack site license. So when I get to the end user, it will disable it. And now there's a difference between activation and registration. Can somebody tell me what the difference is? Activating and registration.
Remy?
Yes, go ahead, Remy.
Okay, registration, I believe, is just putting in basically my personal information. Activation is the ability using that information to begin using software.
Yes, so activation, I must enter the product key. Yeah, so I can use the software. But registration, yes, as Remy said, is so that I will supply my personal information to them. And what happens in that situation is it enables them to really, they can solicit or keep me informed. So you don't have to register your software, but you must activate an enterprise license, all right? Okay, so that's what you need to know on that screen in case you ask the question. There's a chat question in here. Okay, great. Thank you, Helen, for that text note. All right, so going back to our slide, can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
We're on the registration screen, right? So a typical question is, what's the difference between a subscription versus a one-time purchase? A one-time purchase is what it means. You bought it, you can only use it till it expires. If I subscribe, when you get ready to expire, I pay for more, right? You find out that in the cloud environment, most people do subscription license. So this is a terminology you need to know: freeware, shareware, and open source. There's also something that is not on here called bloatware, as in B-L-O-A-T. So bloatware is usually when you buy a computer, you see all those extra software on there. You don't need those things. For security, you should remove bloatware on your system, all right? So now, remember yesterday I said, whenever you have the word W-A-R-E, it means software. Hang on, I gotta mute everybody again. Please, whoever that is, mute yourself. Hang on, let me just, for now, because of that person, let me just mute everybody a minute. So. All right, so I've muted everybody. When I want to ask a question, I will unmute. All right, so what you need to understand is, as I said, I've talked about bloatware. So freeware is just a software that's available free of charge. But you will notice that some software, when they are free, they don't have all the functionality. Like those of us in cybersecurity or forensics, we know that FTK might have a little smaller free version, but some functionality are available for paid version. And of course, shareware is just for you to evaluate it. And after the evaluation period, you have to pay to use it. Otherwise, DRM would disable the features of the software. It's like Microsoft Office. You get a free one to evaluate, and after maybe 30 days, you know, you have to be able to log in, pay for it or not, right? So open source software is what it means. It means it's like a freeware. The difference is that the code is available. And question to everybody here. Somebody can, let's see. I've muted everybody. So what is an example of an open source software? What's the most common one?
Facebook?
Huh? No, Facebook is a freeware.
Okay.
Linux is the most common open source out there, guys, right? All right, so it makes the code. That's why you have what's called distros of Linux, because I could take them and I could recreate them, right? I could take the source code and I can make my own distribution of Linux. So Linux is one of the most common one among with other open source software. They have OLI enables you to even have some other ones. All right. Productivity software just means software that enables me to do my work. Web browsing software, processing, you know, that one is simple visual diagram like Microsoft Visio or Lucid Charts. Now, collaboration software for me to be able to take over your computer like Google Docs, some people we consider that a collaboration software. And of course, video conferencing, we're using Zoom. You also have Cisco Web Apps. VoIP is very important, voice over internet. if you're in IT or networking, you know that you have to use what is called QoS, quality of service, so you can prioritize VoIP over data, right? And business software is what that is. For graphics, everybody knows Corel Draw or other ones. So CAD, for computer-aided design, they have their own separate software. That's all they want you to know here. What are the different types of software? This was in project management. We have project management softwares, right? All right, so we have some of these labs. Now here, programming and app development, I'm going to spend a little more time in the next two or answer questions, because you need to know this. Even though you don't want to be a programmer, you need to kind of understand how programs work. We're using a program here. I need to know how it works. So here, software development, the big thing about it, or app development, because there's a big area of IT, you can get a job in it. But for app development, I need to decide the programming languages, and I have to see how the code works. Even if you're in security, you just have to have a general idea about programming, right? So programming sequence, the big thing is that computers cannot tolerate ambiguity. I can ask you, make a joke. Somebody can ask you, should I go to the store today? You'd be like, well, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. You need to check. Is there lockdown? Those are ambiguities. Computers cannot deal with those kind of stuff. They need definite stuff. All right, I think I need to go back to muting everybody again. Because this section is very important. So let me mute everybody again and go back to the slide. So now, as I said, computers cannot tolerate ambiguity. Yesterday, we talked about the 5 things about computers: input, processing, output, storage, and networking. So here, you input the information, the computer processes it, and then outputs it. You need to tell the computer exactly what it should do. The computer doesn't want to guess. So you now hear the word about garbage in, garbage out, right? So now, if you can draw a flow chart, you can write any kind of computer program. We see it on my screen. Make sure everybody can see the screen here. Can everybody see this flow chart in here?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I can see it.
So if I walk up to you and I say to you today, write me a program that is just going to print the word hello world. That's the basic Java programming. Any person taking Java knows that. Or I say, write me a program to just say, good morning, Alex, at 12:01 a.m. All I'm going to do is I have a start, I have an end. In between, I'm going to write something. I'm going to say, okay, I'm starting now. If the time is greater than 12:01 a.m., yes or no. If it's yes, I go and I display, good morning, Alex. If it's no, I go back on the loop. I can create an endless loop, or I can tell it when to stop. So if I draw up the flow chart, these are symbols that we use for flow chart. You will see the rectangle, it looks like the diamond in here, that's for decision. You have these blocks in here, so know this. All right? So simple way to write a flow chart. If you can write a flow chart, you can write any kind of program. A good programmer knows Computer Science 101, the first thing you're supposed to do is write a flow chart. If you're going to create an electronic health record system where somebody comes in and wants to register, first thing you do is say, okay, somebody walks into the office, you ask the question, I'm muting everybody again. The first question becomes, is this person a new patient? If yes, go to registration to bring your insurance document. No, go and check in and ask them about their symptoms. Then they will both of them go back to the waiting area to wait for the doctor. Finish with the doctor, what do you do next? Discharge the patient, give them a discharge, billing, close the file. It's a continuous loop. That's all a flowchart does for every single program. Somebody gives you a request, you should be able to write a flowchart. In the hospital, they might call it like a workflow. That's all it is, all right? And then you write a pseudocode, which is really, it's just a simple steps of what I want to do with my program. And then you now break it into simple instructions before you now create. Don't worry about what subroutine is. It could be just, in those days when we wrote Fortran program, we wrote subroutines, but now you have a lot of subroutines already done for you. You just need to know how to use them or call them. So programming code, these are the features of the programming code. It's telling you the first thing in here that you don't need to use the syntax of a particular program. In other words, if I'm writing a program and as I said, use the same example about printing good morning, Alex, I don't need to say I'm using Java code or I'm using COBOL code. I could just write it out in a pseudocode and tell the subroutines, and I can do my branches and my loops, my conditional statements. I'm going to talk about variables in a minute. And then I just write it out. So I would just take that programming code, I have it maybe on my right hand, and I just find the actual code in the particular programming language to write that program. So if you can create a flow chart, you have your programming code, you can easily find the language you want to use and just change that programming code to match the source, the syntax of that particular source code. That's all that's telling you there, right? So that leads us to the different types of programming languages and the environment. So if I want to write a program, I need to decide what am I comfortable with. Like for years, I did assembly, Fortran, COBOL, before C. So I might not be comfortable writing a program in C# or C++. So when somebody comes with me and tells me, write me a program, I'm going to decide based on my experience as a programmer. And then also, what about the device that the user is going to use? I use that in deciding what kind of programs I'm going to write and a programming language, right? So you've got Python, Java, JavaScript, Ruby. But programming languages are divided really into 3 types, but here they only talk about 2. But let's talk about compiled language. COBOL is a big compiled language. What that means is it's a platform dependent. If I compile a program in COBOL in IBM, I cannot use it on a Unix system. Whereas interpreted languages are not platform dependent. You got Java, JavaScript, Perl, and Python. That's what you need to know there. So you should be able to say, what does it mean to have an interpreted program or a compiled program? Somebody asks you or gives you an exam question about that, right? And then you've got these other types in here that in old term, they weren't really programming languages, but they're now considered languages, query languages for database. I want to find a record. I use SQL. Assembly language, is more code in human code in human readable text. And they have markup languages for those who are going to do web design. That might interest you, right? All right, so let's go here. This is very, very important in here, and I'm going to unmute everybody in a minute, make sure you understand this next set of term. So identifiers in a computer program is what I use to store values for the program to use. So I can call it, like when I said display good morning, Alex, the time will be an identifier. Believe it or not, the message, good morning, Alex, I could store it in an identifier. So I've got a couple of choices in my identifier. A variable, so if you get a question, is a variable an identifier? Yes. Constant an identifier? Yes, but they are different. A constant, it says it doesn't change when I'm executing my program. So good morning, Alex doesn't change. I store it as a string in a constant called maybe message, and the message displays. But a variable, it says it changes or it can change during the program. So in other words, if I'm doing a counter, like if you see a clock and it's going down, or I'm going to go running and somebody's timing me, or I'm using a countdown clock, I would store that in a variable because it's changing. I'm decreasing it or I'm increasing it depending on what I'm trying to do. That would be a variable. And then here you now have what are called containers, which are like say arrays and vectors. Just know arrays first. They are single dimensional arrays. I've got a row and I've got a column. Like if I say I wanted to store all the student record here now. Every student, I'm going to have your name. If you look in Canvas, you have a student name, you have assignments, and then you have grades. So your name will be on one line, but it's got columns. That would be an array. And they see vectors that can grow or shrink in size. most of it might be beyond the scope of this class. Just know how an array works, right? Fixed number of elements of the same data type. It could be single dimensional or multi-dimensional. Then you need to understand branches and loops. Remember I said, if it's 12:01, print good morning, Alex, as an example. So that's all. I said, if the person came into the office and it's a new client, send them to registration to get insurance document. If it's an old client, go to this side. That's an if then, you know, based on a particular condition happening. And this is important because that's how even what I call logic bombs for like cybersecurity. If I want to put a worm or a virus in your system, and maybe I'll say, maybe at April 15, 2021, I want something to happen. So the logic, what happens is April 15, I know that's a tax day. So maybe I know people are going to get their tax return. I now infect their system and I steal information, right? So if this, then, of course, loops is just like a counter. Do while something is happening. I can say, hey, keep giving you money from your bank account while your bank account is not negative, right? Or different conditions. But that's all a loop does, but it works with the condition. Now, notice operators and how they work, both the logical one and comparison. So most people confuse in IT or program the equal sign. So the equal sign is used for assigning value, whereas the double equal sign is used for comparison. And you see on here how you do a less than or greater than, like I was doing the math asking you to convert from decimal to binary. And I said, if that number, like you would do, 51, if it's greater than or equal to 128, then put a 1 in there or put a 0 there, how I write it. And of course, and or XOR. The most confusion people get is XOR. Everybody seems to know what an and might be. It means if both of them are true, right, then the whole statement is true, which would be if you are, say, if you are male and you are over 18 years old. If those two conditions are true, then do something, right? Or I might say, okay, if you have no criminal conviction and you are over 18, I should issue you driver's license as an example. An or statement would be something like, if you are married, and they say like in the Middle Eastern country, says, if you're married or you're over 18, get a driver's license, whatever, right? Or if you are American or Canadian, enter Europe without a visa, something like that. So either when any one of those is true, that's an or statement. XOR becomes more confusing for people. XOR means if either condition is true, but not both, then the whole statement is true, which could mean if one could say, okay, if you have, essentially like, if you have corona virus, right? So that's one condition, right? That one is true. But it says, or if you've traveled to Italy, that's an XOR statement, right? If either condition is true, but not both, then the whole statement is true. So if you have coronavirus, or you've traveled to Italy, that statement is false. I've muted anybody in case any question now. This is a good, any question about that?
There's no difference between or and XOR because it's the same, it's saying the same thing, but different language.
No, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. If you look at the or statement now, I said, for example, now, right? I want to do something. So I said, okay, let's say if you are over 18 and you are a US citizen, then you can vote, right? So the or XOR becomes more like the negative portion, right? So we got that either condition is true, then you could do that, right?
Yes, that's
XOR,
right?
But XOR says if you are over 18 or XOR a US citizen, that statement is false. So the difference is with XOR. Yeah, if both of them is true, then the statement, yeah. Everybody seeing my slide? You understand what Ugo is asking? See here, right? So here with the XOR statement, he said, if either statement is true, but not both, then the whole statement is true. Whereas this one, if any of the statement is true, then the statement is true. It's almost like a double negative.
Okay, so in XOR, if both conditions are true, then the whole statement is not true.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Right. See what I've highlighted on my screen?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I see.
All right. So next, when you write a program, this is how you write comments. But if I'm writing a program code, I just know this is a comment. I just have to figure out what the programming language allows me to do. Some languages I use the // some I use the pound key, right? And you know that's a comment, and then the function returns the value, and then procedure functions are used for blocks of code. The main thing you need to know is that functions return the value. Like I add something, and then it gives me a value for me to do something. Object-oriented language, just know that a big example is Python, Java, those are object-oriented language. Scripting language, you need to kind of understand how they work. It just allows you to do repetitive tasks. Like now, yesterday we saw on Windows 10, we had the command line interface, and then we now have Windows PowerShell. That's a big example of a scripting language. So a lot of people in administration, they use it a lot because it allows them to use repetitive tasks. So if I'm a system administrator and I know every morning I need to dump something from a log, I run a report and look at all my users, I can automate those tasks and write them into a script. And I just run the script and it gives me my reports. I don't have to go back and retype everything. And of course I save it, and you see that one like VBasic. All right, quickly here, application platforms. Just know that whenever I'm writing a program, I have to think about the platform. A program that I write for iOS is not going to work on Android. I have to write for each one of them. And of course, you have web applications. Application can be delivered on my local machine or on a network installation, which means enterprise environment. And of course, cloud. Cloud is a big thing now. You get it in the cloud, like Windows, Office 365. I can have it on my local computer, or I can get it through my network in my office, or I can just run it from the cloud. Of course, the issue with the cloud is I must have internet access. All right. Then databases. We need to spend some time on this one here. Any questions so far? All right, great. So databases, here I just want to describe and explain what they do and understand the difference between a database and maybe a straight flat file. Especially if you're going to get into even cloud, you need to know, am I going to be doing Amazon, DynamoDB, or Aurora, or Oracle DBase, or do I want to go get certified as a database administrator? So database, basically, you want your data to be structured and stored, and I store them in columns and in rows. That's the main, so you must understand rows and columns, right? So think about when I explain arrays in that kind of concept. I've got a row, right, which is your records, and the columns are the fields in that record. So I need to be able to create, import it, I need to store it, I need to be able to query it, and I need to be able to run reports. Storage, if you remember yesterday, we were talking about data persistence, stored somehow. So this will be data at rest. When we get to the security section, as opposed to data in transit. But here, I need to make sure that it's stored somewhere where it is persistent, meaning permanent somewhat, right? All right, so flat file system versus database. If you know, sometimes when you try to download a calendar, like when I sent the invite for the Zoom, it tells you you can download the dates. You can download the dates, and when you try to download it, it gives you a CSV file, right? Let me mute everybody. Somebody else is laughing in the background. I don't have any problem with laughter, but all right, all right, so here, so a spreadsheet like Excel, straight, right? And then So the comparison, the reason why you prefer a database is look at how a database will work. I can store and I can link multiple data in what's called a schema. I'll explain what a schema means in a minute, right? So the word scalability, database are easier to scale, go up or down. That's what it means to scale it, right? And I can have more sophisticated access control. If you're in the office now and you open an Excel document and you're working on it, you open the Excel document and then you decide to do something with the Excel document. You want to maybe open it and make a change to it. When you're working on it, can I access that Excel document?
Yes.
I can access the Excel document. But what happens when I open the Excel document? What does it tell me? Huh?
To tell you, it's opened by another user.
It's opened by another user, right? And I cannot concurrently make changes to that file with the user. I don't have to save it separately, right? But databases don't have that restriction. Now, there are other issues called, as the other terminology about at what time is the database record fully up to date or current, but I can be changing it while Calvin is working on the database. But on the Excel, he's working on his copy, I'm working on my copy, right? And of course, database, now Excel is getting a little more sophisticated, but now mostly, initially, databases were the only ones that allow you to do structured query language, but you can write some query with like an Excel, but not as good as with a database. An issue you need to know about is this terminology called a primary key for database. The other ones you can skip for another time, but primary key could be like your social security number, your student number, right? So just know that, and the related, and then of course this last line in here about the definition of my table, my columns, and my relationship to them is what's called a database schema. So let me give a question, an example like now. When I go to get a driver's license, or no, let's use the library example. When I go to the library to rent a book, the library tells me, okay, I have a library ID number for Alex, but it's another set of database or record that shows the books that's available. So, and there's another record that shows if that book has been checked out. So if Alex requests that same book, he has to be able to relate it and check to see, is it available and when it's going to be maybe returned by somebody else. That's one of the beauty about relational database. Of course, I have non-relational database also, right? So these are the constraints, garbage in, garbage out, which means, yep, if you enter junk, you're going to get junk. And of course, this, I don't consider this a constraint, but it's a good issue to have your fields be of a particular data type, like is it an integer, string, character. A good programmer knows that they must do input validation, otherwise they are subject to hackers or people trying to break into their programs. And of course, you also want to make sure this relates to other issues like buffer overflow, but just know that validation rules are very important in a database. And then structured database versus unstructured database, it gives you an example on here. And then key value pair, which is a good example on here. See on here now, if I have this here, this Warren, that's a username, the key, and then the value. So somebody defines the database, and you know they're going to tell me that Warren, this value here is going to be a string for Warren, for the name, but the age should be a number. In this case, should be an integer, whole number, because you're not going to say that Warren is 27.5 years old. So that's the reason why you need to know data types. And technically, if I enter the wrong value, the system should be able to warn me and says, oh, invalid input type. And this is just telling you about how you can define your database and how you can manipulate your database. These are just keys that any database administrator will know, like this, including get, select, insert, all right? And the permissions, I can grant you permissions. I can decide who can access it, who cannot access it. And this is just about access method. I can query to run a report. So you might be able to have an access to run a report, but you don't have an access to change it. Or you have an access to change, and then maybe not have an access to run a report. Or you can have or this one here, programmatic access. I can give you an access for like APIs or interface, like for another software or a program to access the database. And then, of course, this one here is a complicated theory. Just understand that they have different tiers of architecture for my database. The end tier confuses people. Just know that I can have a front end or database hosted on my same computer or in different systems. Usually these are related to that one, right? All right, any questions? Now I'm going to open it back up to questions about anything we've covered, and then we're going to look at the homework. All right, any questions? I know somebody said a comment yesterday, we went through a lot of stuff, so I know it was a lot. Or any calculations you want us to do, we can go back and redo the binary calculations, or whatever it is that you want to ask. You know, so this is the point where anybody who wants to drop out can drop out, and I'll answer the questions for the rest of the class. Okay, let's see.
Can you do the binary questions, an example of a binary?
Okay, good. All right, binary question. So let's go back to, let me do a new share. Let's get the whiteboard. Everybody sees my whiteboard? Let's erase the whiteboard.
Yes.
Yes, so in this example on here that I did, let me move this one down here. Let me move the old one down here. Get out of the way. All right, so we're going to do a new. All right, so in this previous example, if my screen can get off here a minute. All right, so give me a number. Somebody, you just asked, was that Helen? Helen, or who just asked me for a number to calculate? Give me a number to calculate. Hello?
68.
Huh?
68.
68, right? All right, so we want to calculate 68. So we're going to bring back this this whole thing in here. This, I call it my placeholder, right? So I'm trying to calculate, so you know where it gets confused. Decimal 68. So I said, to make my life, we always, in case I forget to say that, we always start from the left. So we're always going to start from the far left.
Okay.
So we're going to create our placeholders. Oops. So I'm creating, the reason I'm using only 8 placeholders is because it's less than 255. You can also do this thing with more advanced numbers, but for purpose of this class, because IPv4 addresses are done in what is called octets, and they only go up to 255. We now use 2 to the power 7. So you will know, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know that that if I have every single thing here, so this is 128, sorry, go down here to 64, which is half of that, 32, go back to 16, go back to 8, 4, 2, 1. So Canvas doesn't allow me to do exponents, but just so you know, if you go and you check 2 to the power 0 is 1, 2 to the power 1 is 2, 2 to the power 2, which is 2 times 2 is 4, 2 to the power 3 is 8, 2 to the power 4 is 16, 2 to the power 5 is 32, 2 to the power 6 is 64, and then of course 2 to the power 7 is 128. So we're going to go to our question again, which is 68 higher than 128? Is 68 bigger? Is 68 larger than 128?
No.
So I'm going to put a 0.
0, yes.
So what about 64?
No.
No.
No,
Yes,
no, wait.
number one.
Number one, yes. So I'm going to put a 1 there.
Yeah.
So 68 minus 64 is 4 left over, right?
Yes.
So I got 4 remaining, right? So is 4 larger than 32?
No, 0.
I put a 0. And I go to 16. Is 4 larger than 16?
No, 0.
So I put a 0 there. And I go to 8. Is 4 larger than 8?
0.
So it's going to be 0.
And then 1.
And then 44, I do 1, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens to the next ones? So I'm going to put a 0, right? Because,
0.
right, because after 4 minus 4 is 0, right? So for the 2, I'm going to put a 0. And then for the 1,
0.
put a 0.
0.
Right?
0
So this is
0.
my answer, right? 0, 1, 0, 0. So I'm going to take my iPad and I'm going, or if you have your phone there, you can go to, if you open Google, or we can even use, so let's go and let's do a new share. Let me share my iPad on here. So while it's coming up on my iPad, it's going to tell me, okay, so while that one is opening, I'm just going to go to, if the iPad takes too long, we're just going to bring, all right, let's take, can you guys see my computer screen? No?
No.
All right, so let's,
Yes.
you see my, which one do you see, my computer screen or my iPad?
It looks like your iPad.
Okay. So waiting for it to come. Sometimes with network, and but while that one is coming, let's go back to the screen. Let's share the screen because the screen might be faster while that one is loading. So did everybody see my screen? My regular screen or no? Nope.
No.
I see Kim's video on here. Let's go on here, back up here. Let's see here. Let's go back here. Okay, it's actually showing everybody. Let's go to basic and share my screen. Let's go to advanced. I want to share. Okay, let's take a portion of my screen. All right, you see my screen now?
Yes. Yes.
All right, great. So then let's go. So if you want to, we just come over here called binary calculator, binary to decimal, and let's take a good one in here. It's an easy one. So the value you just gave me was, let's go from decimal to binary, right? And you gave me 68. I'm just going to convert, right?
Yup.
68.
And it should give me the
It should
value.
be 010001.
Yeah, it's right there. See on the screen right there?
Oh.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm going to add leading zeros because I'm looking for 8 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I will now add a 0 at the end. It doesn't change the value because I'm still going to count from the left to the right anyway. Or if I feel better, I just put, I know 2 to the power 0 is 1. So I knew 1 to the power 0 times 0 is 0. So I just put the placeholder and I just calculate backwards. Any question? All right. So on the on the assignment from yesterday, I posted what I consider best practice answers. What will happen is sometimes some of the answers that we post, some people might say, "Oh well, can I do it this way?" It is possible, but maybe I look at different ones. Okay, well, this might be the best answer for the client. I'm just going to take a few, and then I'm going to let, and then we're going to drop if there's no more questions. Well, let's see it. So we're going to go back to, let's share my screen in here. All right, does everybody see my PDF? Do we see the PDF document?
Yes.
All right, so the first question was true or false. All types of computers need system memory. True.
True.
You need a CPU, otherwise you cannot process, and you need your system memory, which is your RAM, or you can't really do anything, right? And the next one is, this is a very typical question, some of them here. What type of computer is most likely to need peripheral devices? So in this question in here, you need to understand what peripheral devices mean. They just mean devices that don't come with the computer. I have to attach it with the computer. Some people will say today, most of them require a USB connector, right? So here are a printer. So desktop need that. Right? All-in-one peripheral, all-in-one PCs, they use peripherals with the obvious exception of a monitor, because in all-in-one, the drives, everything is connected to the monitor, right? And then it's a very good question for a client. So you're student for using a job where you have to take notes. I want to move around easily. You want a hybrid, all right? Laptop, don't make good servers. Let's go to IoT. Hello, whoever that is, mute, please. Whoever is clicking the paper. All right, before you set up a computer, you always want to make sure the environment is suitable and that installation will be safe. Location of system case, that one is simple. Let's find, this one is a shortcut alt case. You know what that means, right? I find it difficult, icon to choose when you're switching between them. Usually just your alt tab allows you to show previews on your system. Let's go to what I might consider to be more device driver. You need to know this part. This device driver, providing combination of hardware, coordination of your hardware components. It's called a device driver. It is a software. It's a program developed for that hardware and the OS to work, which would be like printer driver, mouse, having a portable mouse, a driver. And yesterday we said the best place to get drivers is at the OEM website. What's OEM again, guys? What is OEM?
Original equipment manufacturer.
Yes, so that's the best way to go for your drivers. And then we talked about uniform resource located. So the technical term for a web address, you're not going to walk around today and go tell everybody, oh, what's your URL? But in IT, you need to know what a URL means, right? So URL is what people call a web address. So google.com, that's the URL. And then this one, I told you that unless you know what you're doing, please don't edit your registry because it has your settings, right? Somebody asked me about the PID. Let's see if I can show you. So you can see my screen that with I just right-clicked my mouse, right? And then I go to, here I see on my screen, I've got my PowerShell. Everything we talked about yesterday, we got the disk management.
So go continue with your class now.
But I can't do anything else. I need to go.
Hold on, let me
when is it due?
let me excuse me, let me mute.
Today or due now or today?
Some of them are due on the 20th.
Okay, I've muted everybody, okay? So now let's look back at all right. Ugo, is that Ugo that I was hearing the Yoruba language? Please, right? All right. So back on this now, I wanted to show you how do I find, if you see on your system, I don't see command prompt, right? We all know, so this, I know it's elementary for some of you guys, right? So you guys see my screen? So you see my CMD now. So I want to find how to kill a process. Let me mute, right? So go over here. So here now, this is Alex. And then if I right click on the bottom on here, I will be able to see my task manager, my system on here. Let's make sure that I can get everybody to see me. Or I will just hit my control, alternate, delete. You guys see my screen? So yesterday we were talking about processes. So this is just to help you with the answer to that question about if I want to look at my process. Screen is frozen. Somebody else's, right? So let me go back to the answer that we're talking about. So I hope you saw my task manager screen. All right, so go back to this question in here from, hang on, my system is looping on the blue screen. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to figure out who that water is running so I can mute them. Let's unmute everybody. I'm going to mute. I see here the person's this thing running, but anyway. Any other question on here? I was just going over some of the questions on here. I'm trying to mute somebody, but okay, I guess I have to mute everybody. All right. Okay, so I'm not hearing the person, but all right. So this question in here, I'm scrolling down to the other questions on here. I'm going to look for the one CLI. We talked about that yesterday. UAC, know what that is, user account control. True or false, a standard user cannot change their own password. Did anybody think that was true, that a standard user can change their own password?
What question is that?
I'm showing you this one here.
No, not true. False.
Right, because a standard user, I've given you your password. You can change your own password. It's also part of best practice in security anyway. Let the user be the one to change their password. But obviously, a standard user cannot change the password of an administrator. That's what the trick question is there. We talked about this yesterday. Determine if anything has changed. Number 2 here is very, very important. Senior manager, plan of action for resolving a fault in a software program. What name is given to the process you are following? Escalation. Escalating because the person might be more experienced or is beyond the scope of your authority or privilege. So this is troubleshooting. Always back up your files before you work on them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Are we supposed to be seeing the questions or just the screen?
You're supposed to be seeing the questions.
We can only see, I believe it's the command line. I don't.
We're only seeing the command line? Okay,
Yeah.
because I was doing a new share of that one. Let's go back to
No, it's not the command line. It's the task manager, the screen.
you guys were seeing the task manager screen? You used to see the task manager screen?
Yes.
Yes, we only see task manager blue screen.
Okay, let's get out of that one. All right, so we'll stop sharing everything and we'll now do the okay, I've got a chart here. Let me answer the question. I've got it already, so let me reply to that person. Okay. All right, so is there any general question about the questions from last night, the 38 questions? What I suggest you do is compare the answers that I posted with your own answers, and then let me know if there's any more questions by private chat or whatever. If you need any more calculation, you can let me know. I can give you, we have lots of questions for the A+ class on binary, even hexadecimal conversion. And then on the database, just please remember to know the data types. Know, am I dealing with an integer? Am I dealing with a number that doesn't change? Am I dealing with a floating point number, which is, I got a decimal? Or why do I need to have a character as opposed to string in my data? Because I need to have a wider range of variables, all right? So if there's no questions, any question if I end? All right, so please do the 120 questions. So go ahead. Yes, Tom, yeah. Go ahead, Tantan.
If we have questions outside of this virtual classroom, when's the best time to reach you? Just to make sure that, you know, like if we did have a follow-up question to the lesson or anything else.
That's tough to answer with a virtual class. Usually, like today when I drop off from you guys, I've got a presentation, virtual presentation for some people in Lagos on product management for 2 hours. Usually it's best if you send, when you put it in the group of WhatsApp, everybody sees the question. If you send it to me privately, then I can answer. So usually I can say from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I'll try and find time to answer.
Okay.
Right? If you post it on Blackboard, it will send, not Blackboard, Canvas. I use Blackboard for another class. It will send me a notification, but the fastest way for me to answer the question is on WhatsApp. Because then I have to, I do have WhatsApp on my laptop, but my laptop is not always with me on my iPad. So anytime between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., post the question. Let me restrict 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Because my wife is on the line. She's going to be like 14 hours, right? 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
Where did you?
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Tanta. What's the question?
I sent you the inbox, the email inbox, but I didn't receive your reply, so I'm not sure where do I see
when was this?
I sent you your email last night.
Yeah, that was the one requesting the access to the video, right?
Yes.
Okay. I replied yesterday. I replied again today. Just check. Otherwise, just contact me privately, right? So if there's no more question, I'm going to end the recording, but I can still answer any questions. But I leave the recording for technical questions that people might want to be able to benefit from.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys. So I'm going to end the
day.
meeting then. All right. So I'll send a link. Check Canvas for a link to the video.
Thank you.
See you guys tomorrow. Do the homework, please. 120 questions. All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Somebody send a text message.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Paulo. Hello, Saul.
Hello, Bree. How are you? Nice to
Good.
see you.
Nice to see you too.
Bye
How's it-
bye.
Bye-bye. I'm logging out. Look at Saul. He just standing there.